Hey, welcome to Easy Does It Digital. Have you ever opened Microsoft Word and felt overwhelmed by all the buttons and options? Hey, you're not alone. But don't worry, today we're going to break it all down in a simple, easy to follow way. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to format a basic document, change fonts, adjust spacing, and make your text look nice. So let's jump right in. Before we start typing, let's get you familiar with what you see when you open Word. At the top, we have the title bar. This is where you see the title of the document and where there are some other features like autosave, regular save, undo, redo, print, and search. Next, we have what's called the ribbon, and this holds all the tools that we'll use in Microsoft Word. There are different tabs, each with different features and functions, and you'll use those at different times for different purposes when you're creating documents. But at some point, you'll probably use every tab and almost every tool. Maybe not on every document, but at some point. The main part of the screen is your document area. This is where you type and do all of your formatting to make the document look the way you want it to look. On the right side, we have the scroll bar. This is where you can scroll up and down through multiple pages if you have more than one page in a document, or you can just scroll from top to bottom of a single page. And finally, at the bottom, the status bar shows page numbers, word count, and more. Sometimes we overlook it because it's very small, just doesn't show up, but it's a huge part of using Word. Knowing where everything is on the Word interface will make things so much easier for you. Let's start typing. When you type, your text appears in the default font and size. But what if you want to change that? What if you want the text to pop on the page? It's really easy. All we have to do is select, and I'm using my mouse by clicking and dragging, and then we go up here to the font section on the ribbon. We can choose the drop down by the font name and choose different ones. Now, each computer typically has some of the same ones, but there will be some differences based on your system's configurations. Times New Roman is usually a fairly safe bet for almost any type of document. But if you wanted something a little more fun or a little more decorative, you might choose something else. And in this case, it's a little hard to read after we made the changes. So we can use one of the increase or decrease font sizes, and in this case we need it larger. So we click increase, and this just incrementally bumps it up. But you can also change the font size by using the drop down. And as you can see, it's very simple to change it very quickly. You can also do bold, you can also do italics, you can also do underlining. And in most cases, you can also do strike through. So those are just some common ways. Now, some other ways that you can format text would be to highlight or not. And in this case, I highlighted it, but I don't want to leave it highlighted. So I'm going to drag over that again, and that will go away. But let's say that I do want to change the text color. So instead of black, I want it to be something else. And I'm going up here to turn off my highlighter because it was still selected. I'm going to select the text that I want to change the color of. And then I go up here and I pick a color. So in this case, let's go with a nice blue. And now our text is blue, and we've made some simple changes just by making the font look different. Now let's talk about paragraph formatting. If your text looks crammed together or just not the way you want it to, you have choices. First of all, you can use the line and paragraph spacing tool to add more space between lines. And the way you would do that is by selecting the area that you want to change, and this would be your line spacing. You can choose one of the default settings, like for example 1.5 or double spaced, but you can also be more specific by going to line spacing options and going to this box. Here you can choose the spacing before and after the paragraph. You can choose indentation, you can choose alignment, and so many different things. You can also click on this tab, which is the line and page breaks tab, to further add more options, but we're not going to go into all that today. So I'm just going to go ahead and click cancel, and we're going to go with the simple way for the moment. So we're going to double space this text, and you'll see that this one looks a little funny because it's a different font. So we can fix that pretty quickly and easily by clicking at the point where the fonts change, and then all we have to do is move it to the next page or the next line, just like that. And all I did was hit enter to move it down. Now, at this point, we can continue to make changes to this. For example, let's say we want to center this, and it's no longer plain. So let's just say this is a paragraph, and it's not with no formatting, but it's with formatting. So we're going to change that, and we want to now center this. So we highlight it, and then we use the paragraph center text button, which is here. So we click and it goes there. You can also write a line or you can justify, but in this case we're going to go with center. Now, in addition to this, you can also use the increase or decrease indent buttons to organize your text neatly. That's not such a big deal in this paragraph, but it could be if we had, say, a bulleted list. So let's go here and let's give it a try. And just in the interest of time, I'm going to use voice texting. This is item number 1. This is item number 2. This is item number 3. Now we want to turn this into a bulleted list by highlighting it all and then going here in the paragraph formatting to the button that says bullets. Now, if you don't make any changes, you're going to have just the default bullet type, which is a dot. But if you click the little tiny drop down arrow beside it, you have more choices. And the really cool thing is you can even define. So maybe you want a puppy paw print, or maybe you want something else entirely. You can click this to define a different bullet. But let's make this one a checkbox. And you'll notice that I now have a checkbox list. So a checklist. Now let's say I didn't want it to be checkboxes after all, but instead I wanted it to be a numbered list. So I can toggle that off and then simply go here to the numbering button. And when I click that, it will start numbering. If you click the drop down, you can also choose different styles. The default on my computer is the number with a period right after it, but you can also do a number with parentheses, you can do Roman numerals, you can do letters. It doesn't matter. It's just an ordered list. So let's go with the one with parentheses. So I'll click that, and now my ordered list looks like this. Now let's talk about indenting the text we've just formatted into a list. So indentation simply means the distance between the margin and the beginning of the text. You can see the margin up here in the ruler where it changes from gray to white. That's where the text begins. So what we're going to do is come down here. We're going to highlight our list. And you'll notice that in the ruler you have actually three icons. So the first one aligns with the numbers, or if you were using the check boxes or the dots or puppy paw prints, whatever you're going to use as your bullets. Okay, then you can also see that there's an arrow pointing upward or a triangle pointing upward, and that shows where the text aligns. The little rectangle underneath this one actually moves them together. So if I wanted less distance between the bullet and the text, all that I would need to do is click this particular button, and then I can drag that. See how it gets closer, further away, closer, further away. All right, so I'm going to leave that there, and then if I click here on this, I can also change that distance as well. So it's two different ways to do the same thing. But if I click on this little rectangle and drag it, what happens is that I move the whole section as a unit, and I can indent. And to me, this is one of the better ways to do indentations because it gives you a lot of control over exactly where you want your list to be. So I was originally about here. Let's just say I don't want it quite that much, but I don't want it all the way to the margin. So maybe right about there. So I've just moved it one mark on the ruler. And that's how you can indent. There are also other ways like using the decrease and increase indent buttons on the toolbar. Now, how would you like to spruce this up with a little imagery? Why don't we go ahead and use the Easy Does It digital logo just for kicks? So, first of all, you have to decide where you want the image to go. And I'm just going to go here to the top and I'm going to bring back the little on-screen keyboard so you can do on your keyboard what I'm doing here. And your keyboard layout may be different, of course, but that's okay. So I want to have the logo up here at the top. So I'm just going to move down my text by clicking a couple of times and then I'll click on that line, and fortunately it's already in the center because that's where the text was and it's just going to continue that formatting, but I can change that later if I would like. So now what we do is we click on Insert and we have the choice to go to Pictures. In this case, we want to go to Picture from File. And then what we're going to do is choose the image that we want from wherever we have it saved. And then we're going to click on Insert. And just like that, we have an image. But notice that it puts it in at a very large size. Also notice that as long as the picture is selected on the screen, and it moved over because it was big, by the way. I'll explain that, or well, I'm going to fix that later. So as long as you've clicked on the image, you have this tab that shows up under Picture Format. When I click off of the image, that goes away. So in order to invoke that tab, you have to click on the image and then it comes back. And so you'll notice over here to the right side, I have height and width. And I'm going to change the size of this picture to get it back to something a bit more manageable. So I'm going to click there and then I'm going to click on the image again, and here I get to make some different other changes to make it look better. So remember, it moved over because it was originally so big. Under Position, we can click the drop down and we can go to the center and it's going to place it back in the center. You can also wrap text around it. So let's see what that looks like. Let's make it the top left instead of the center. And let's say we want our text to go beside it. So I click here and I just hit backspace and I move it and it puts the text beside the picture. And there are different ways. And again, remember, I have to invoke the command for picture format by clicking on the picture. But for wrap text, you can do in line with text, square, tight, through, all these different options. You can even set a boundary yourself if you want the text to flow around the picture in a different shape. But we're not going to get that fancy today. So let's just say that we are going to keep it as square. But let's go ahead and put this back to middle. And I'm going to click in front of my text again. And we're just going to bump that down so that it is below the picture. And because it was off center, I'm going to recenter that. Now this document is super simple and definitely nothing fancy. It's not a newsletter or an article or anything like that. But let's just pretend for a moment like it was. This would definitely be worth saving. So you've done all this formatting and you definitely don't want to lose your work. So what you do is you will click on the save icon and that will save it if you've never saved it before. This will be the initial save. So I'm going to save it in Word 101 and I definitely don't want this as the file name. So we're just going to type in practice by typing it on your keyboard. And just for the record, you don't need an on-screen keyboard. I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. So we'll type in practice and we're going to hit save. Now, this is a fun little thing that you can do as well. These days, it seems like everybody wants to do file sharing using PDF. So you can turn this Word document into a PDF very simply, and you do that by clicking on the print button, and it will bring up your print dialog box. And in the bottom right corner, bottom left corner, you will see the PDF button. So we'll click the little drop down arrow and go to Save as PDF. And you will notice that everything here kind of carries through. Everything is the same. But then when we click on Save, this time it saved it as a PDF. So now you will have two copies of the file. One is a Word document, one is a PDF that you can share with other people. And this way it looks the same on any device, whether they have really super cool fonts like you do or not. Let's quickly recap what we covered today. We explored the Word interface. We worked on formatting fonts and paragraphs. We also did lists and indentations. We inserted images, formatted images. We saved a document and exported it to PDF. Now that you know the basics, you're well on your way to creating polished and professional documents. If you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe for more beginner-friendly tech tutorials from Easy Does It Digital. And if you have any questions, hey, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to help. See you next time.